Hey, it's Nolan from Benchmark here, and I want to talk about one of my favorite topics, especially around this job, and that is units, because they make a world of difference in your survey, and understanding which is the right one to use and when to use it is really, really important. And it's specifically what I want to talk about today is US survey feet versus international feet, because without fail, at least once or twice a year, I get somebody calling up who makes the conversion improperly and ends up with all sorts of wonky stuff in their survey. So let's take a look at the difference and see what it actually means to you in the real world. So, as I said, we want to look at the difference between US survey feet and international feet, because there is one profession in the US that insists on being different, and that is the surveying profession, and we use a different foot standard than really the rest of the international community and the US. And to understand the difference, we need to look at how they are legally defined. So, in the 1860s, US survey feet was codified as 1200 over 3937 of a meter. When we convert that to a decimal, we end up with 0.3048 and like 0061. So it's a little rough, but that fraction was nice and easy to write down. Everybody could use it. Everybody was using it. It was a standard. It didn't make a huge difference. However, in the 1960s, the international community came together and decided to kind of unify all these feet units that were used across the world, and they unified it and defined it as a specific decimal value, and this is where the difference comes into. Instead of defining it as a fraction, we define it as 0.3048 of a meter, so it's an exact decimal value. Now, the difference between that and our fraction value seems really, really small. In fact, it is almost infinitesimally small. It's less than the width of a human hair. In fact, a human hair is 62 times larger than that distance, and over, a distance of a foot, that makes almost no difference. However, it does come into play in a couple of big ways when we're talking about surveying. If we're working with surveying and we're working in a coordinate system, we're working with values that are maybe 5 million feet, or 1 million feet, or 100,000 feet. And suddenly that tiny, tiny, tiny infinitesimal difference can make a big world of difference on your survey. So last summer I was talking to a customer who had his Opus data. He processed the static data, he got a point back from Opus, and that point is given to you in coordinates of meters. Now he did what kind of a lot of reasonable people in today's day and age would do. They took that value, they plugged it into Google and said, give me what this is in feet. However, since the 60s, as I mentioned, there's only one profession in all of the US and all of the world that uses US survey feet, and that is surveyors. So Google outputs your value in international feet. So he put in, 100,000 meters by 200,000 meters in the easting, and when he got the output, he went and looked at it on where it should be placed on his map, and he was way out. Like he was 100 kilometers from where he was supposed to be, and that was because he had the wrong unit conversion. This value that changed his position entirely, completely ruined, or he thought ruined his survey, and that Opus was giving him the wrong position, that the GPS was lying to him. And at the end of the day, it was a very simple fix. He just had to change the unit he was converting it to, and as soon as we did that, all of his data began lining up again. Now, what does this mean for you in the field? What does this mean for surveyors who actually have to use this stuff on their day-to-day lives? If you are still surveying in the US survey feet is still kind of the accepted standard. They have tried to retire this year after year after year after year, but it is so entrenched in the profession right now that it's probably going nowhere. It will probably be around for a number of years to come, decades, probably longer than I will be alive. So what you need to do, unfortunately, is double check everything that you're doing. If you're getting something from a drafter or an engineer, they might be using international feet. If you're getting something from your surveying buddy, it's probably in US survey feet. So you need to ask people what units they use to ensure that you avoid any confusion, because that small measurement can be all the difference in getting your survey in the right spot and having the accurate data that you need.